Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Lesser Known Classics. This is episode number 3256, Doubleshot number 3150. We have, pretty much in a way, this is the last book for this one. This is the Usagi Yojimbo Saga Legends. And I'm also discussing I think it's the third to last Teenage Heroes Adventures trip, which we'll discuss the reason for that. So, this book is basically some other Usagi miniseries published by the original Dark Horse era. These books are the following. We have Space Usagi, Death and Honor. Space Usagi, White Star Rising. Space Usagi, Warrior. Short stories from issue 4017 of Turtles, issue 3 of Fantagraphs, Color Special, and 1 through 6 of Usagi Yojimbo Senso, the Dark Horse graphic novel Yokai, and Gagged from the SBLDF Presents Library Annual 2014. So, yeah, 3 Yoseis, basically a lot, basically here's kind of the thing. Yokai is basically a Usagi story, where Usagi encounters basically some yokai, like actual demons, and he works with somebody to battle these demons, and that's kind of it for that one. So, it's a short story. First up, we have the first Space Usagi, where this Usagi is in the future, where they still use swords. It's basically, you can think of this as futuristic feudal Japan. Well, Usagi is working for the Lord who died in the previous in the main timeline, where he's working for his descendant, and he's a retainer for this person. It's also the previous battle they had. So then they have a debriefing, and of course, basically the son who's next in line. They do mention this other clan they just formed an alliance with. And also, get this, the prince basically is engaged to marry the princess of the clan. But of course, according to him, he's like, I've never met her before. It's for legal purposes. But when he meets her later on, he thinks of her as basically Onopia's mother, despite the fact she's not that much older than he is. Maybe 2 or 3 years older, but I highly doubt it's that much older. So, then we see Usagi just take a sword, and it seems like he's about to attack his boss. And it was like, Usagi, you traitor! We're gonna kill him. It's like, wait. And of course, it's a prince basically points us out, though. It was an attack on the Lord. There was a ninja using cloaking device right behind them. Yes. I'm like, good on basically him for noticing that. And there's these plans, and apparently, supposedly, the enemy finds out. Then later on, the enemy does attack their castle, and Usagi basically sees the fact the person who was actually got criticized by his own boss for being too slow in releasing forces, that he ends up turning traitor. And in exchange for giving him the castle, he becomes the head of the clan, while the Lord himself is murdered. His retainer is shoved out of a frickin' airlock, one of the trainers, and Usagi has to take the prince to the other clan to get the help, which of course he does. And of course there's also this there's this telepath basically in the story who reads his mind, like, okay, so you make it to a castle, but we don't have access to some certain data, and we don't have access to Church of All. Like, how are you gonna finance this empire? So then he proceeds to have, like, re-retainer's mind. He's like, you don't get anything from me. And apparently it's all in the hands of the son, which eventually he does find him, challenge Usagi to a duel. Usagi accepts. Meanwhile, the telepath proceeds to see the prince, read his mind, like, I don't know, I'm not gonna hurt you, reads his mind. The prince has no idea what the heck is going on, walks the ship, leaves, informs the admiral, and this plays a role with the course next door, this treasure vault. Yes, the treasure vault. So then, of course, he's killed, and of course, they're about to get the code. Though later on, apparently, she did get the code, but they lost the words. So then she's killed, and then, of course, the princess marrying the princess, and then sees a woman who looks exactly like the princess, but it's actually her. It's actually a tutor bodyguard, Tomi, who ends up falling in love with Usagi, and apparently they're an item about the sequel story. Yes. By the sequel story of this one, which is White Star Rising, they're a full item in this story, and they're actually like working together. And of course, there's somebody basically trying to betray the clan, and who basically is this girl who's now the telepath from the previous miniseries. And of course, they do succeed taking back the castle, which of course where Tomoe dies, saving Usagi's life, and Usagi's very sad to see the woman he loved die. We also get introduced to this world's version of Gin, though he's called by a different name for some reason, like he's typically the same character. So then by the sequel series, of course, Usagi is not exactly taken very well. Not really. He's not taking her death very well, and of course, basically, then he works with, and then he ends up basically lost, and ends up with a mining clan who was a former affiliate clan of the clan he works for. Which, of course, in exchange for getting his swords and blaster back, he will talk to leadership to restore his status, which, of course, he accepts. And then they're on the way, and then they're attacked by presumably a guy who betrayed him. Turns out it actually was not him. It was actually his boss's uncle, who tried to torture his own nephew for info. I'm like, you dick, because you want that throne so badly. And then they go to the treasure vault. They finally go, they tease us back in the first miniseries. We actually go to this particular place, and it turns out the vault itself is a treasure. Like, the whole walls of the place is basically a treasure. And eventually they try to escape. Then Usagi battles the uncle, and ends up beating him. No problem. And presumably the clan is restored off screen, presumably. And then let's see. And then I have Under the Same Sky. This is basically just another Space Usagi story where he has faced off against. Basically, in this one, this is him avenging his father's death, and that's the whole point of this short story, is him avenging his father's death. And then the next story, this is really cool. I love this one, where it's called Here Today, Here Tomorrow. Where basically they use it. Then we see a flashback to Usagi, the main Usagi who Stan Sakai regularly writes, where they're having a battle. And then Usagi disappears and ends up in the future meeting his ascendant. It's like, and of course, no, like, it's Agent Tongue. Incredible. And apparently, future Space Usagi doesn't explain, like, I need to send the future. The future, I don't understand. I'll try to explain to you. The room, metal lights, amazing. Usagi, I like the reaction. The two Usagis just look at the same time because they're both Usagi, which is so funny. I come from Usagi. Two of you, and of course, battling the robot. It's a back to present. I mean, I'm sure Stan Sakai really wanted to do this short story, but I thought it was so fun. And Sentinel, we have basically where Usagi meets Stan Sakai, which is a really interesting short story. And then we have where, oh, by the way, during his first duel, he puts on this very dress armor, and later he puts on a space armor. And this one here, this is just basically Usagi on the battlefield, and this very story here involves, of course, they have to go because, get this, the story becomes basically Usagi's version of War of the Worlds, where it's him and his people fighting off against the aliens in War of the Worlds. Yes. Well, they're invaded by aliens in this epic story here, which is amazing. Yeah. And supposedly by the end of the story, Jotaro, now Tomoe basically is in the story too. Supposedly she marries some other guy, and the kid here is actually supposed to be Usagi's son, supposed to be his son. And then Jotaro reveals to Usagi that he's actually his son. It's like, oh, I knew that too. And then he dies. Yes, Usagi dies. You could say this is like his final story, and it's like kind of the end of the timeline, and you have Stan Sakai telling more stories, probably leading to that. And then story jumps ahead to the future with Space Usagi, with a bunch of kids, and it will look similar to Tomoe, the one who died in the second miniseries, where she's pregnant, and they want to name her son Jiro, which is also Usagi's son from the past. But yeah, love this book. It's awesome. I give this book a 10 out of 10. Next up, basically, we have is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This contains issues 28 to 31 of the Team Adventure series. Also, I did find this out, though. When it comes to paperbacks, there is actually a few small sub-issues not collected here. You're thinking, why? Why aren't they collected? So, it is issues... I look up on here. It is issues 32 to 37. And you're thinking, wait, 30 to 37, why aren't they in here? Well, apparently the reason why 32-37 is not here, because they're apparently culturally insensitive. Apparently. And that's why basically this is going to be the second to last one, because, well, yes. I may have basically reviewing the other issues probably at some point. And it does collect a couple issues of the Mighty Mutant Animals ongoing. There's certain issues not collected here in this trade payback series for some reason. They include Heroes in the Half Show miniseries. They also do not include, not sure why. They apparently don't have collected here the April New miniseries. And there's a bunch of other ones basically just don't put in trade payback for some reason. Well, let's see. Yeah. So it might be some way because to collect this one. So, in these issues, by the way, the whole story, these issues here, it's a follow-up to the backup story for April O'Neil, where she does not have a banana suit. Nope. You have April here with the katana, and the best way to describe this point in the series, this graphic, is basically 87 turtles. It's also mixed with the Mirage Turtles, but for a family-friendly audience. That's pretty much what the series has become at this point. So then we see, like, this girl here, look like she's about to be... Yeah. And then she proceeds to basically hurt the ninja, try to kidnap her. Well, brought forward this weird guy here. Yeah, and April basically is using katana here, and thinking like, wait, if this is April O'Neil in the 87 series, why is she not wearing the banana suit? You know, the reporter said she wore a lot of the show. No idea. Also, they introduced a character in here, becomes sort of her love interest, who is not Casey Jones. Now, I have a funny feeling that this character here, who's introduced here, who kind of comes close with April, I have a funny feeling that he is based upon the character who appeared in Teen Mutant Turtles 2. And this is probably like the only print appearance of the character. Then we have this Fox woman, which you could say is a prototype for Alplex. and she falls Raphael. And of course, battling the ninja stuff. This story is a lot of fun. And of course, battling a yellow dragon, which leads to issue 3031. It's called The Midnight Sun. It's like a quick four-parter. Yeah, but this book is just awesome. Yeah, and surprisingly, no Shredder. Yeah, no Shredder. He's. Here's the thing about him in this book. It's like the writer just doesn't want to use him at all. It's like he's back for a quick little story arc here. And by the way, the last issue is him going to Japan and Chuhasi. Let's see if we can find him here. Which, of course, they actually make out for an issue. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. But I'm sure Chu must enjoy it because April is very pretty. Like, any continuity, basically, she's very pretty. Yeah. Yeah, and he's a Love a Capable New just for this book. Yeah. But not really much else to say here with these two books. They're both awesome. Okay, so that is pretty much it. Particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to notifications. Next up, Warmer Comic Corner, and then it's on to our Photo Country with the Master Sword. Okay, thanks you. Bye.